Hello mortals, I am the goddess who created the text world of Listernia, and I have just gotten back from the Book Junkie Trials. And there I was a
audaciously brawny bard.
So let's go back and recap what happened during the trials. The first challenge the Queen sent me on to deal with was the Elven Guard. And I knew this was going to be a simple challenge because I could just pop into the future. And meet my old friend Honor Harrington, and I could return with a spaceship to pacify those elves who are getting a little bit aggressive. Now, I haven't visited Honor Harrington in many years, but I remember she was some fast, fun reading with awesome battle scenes that only David Weber can write, and her cute as hell pet was a tree cat named Nimitz. Oh, you're so cute, Nimitz. Oh. I went to the Elven Guard knowing I had this challenge in the bag. Honor Harrington are quick, fun reads, and I will get through this in no time.
You have no power here!
What is happening? What is happening? What's happening? What happened to you, Honor Harrington? Oh, the Honor Harrington novel I got, Uncompromising Honor, was the last novel in a series of over a dozen books. And I had only ever read a couple of the first novels, and I had no idea who most of the characters were that I was being bombarded with, and I couldn't keep track of the events, and there were a ton of characters and subplots, and this book was humongous. And I think the author tried to ameliorate this with massive info dumps, and I couldn't retain anything. And I found myself in the middle of a chapter, and I couldn't remember whose side of the conflict I was reading. It went back and forth between Honor Harrington and the Old Earth bad guys. Oh, and if you didn't know, Uncompromising Honor is that. I do not recommend it. So, abandoned ship, Holy Mother of J.R.R. Tolkien. I need to activate my special bard ability on this very first book. Don't make me do it. Don't make me do it. But I have no choice. I have to hit the DNF button in abandoned ship. So now we end up on the haunted island that Queen Rachel has sent me to. Laugh it up, Queenie. The best way to get across an island is, you got it, call a limo. So I'm calling upon Nosferatu, the horror novel by Joe Hill, about a limousine driver with supernatural powers that allow him to stay forever young by abducting children and turning them into little monsters. Now this is a smooth ride, and it's an extremely fast-paced read. Joe Hill is the son of Stephen King, and we can't help but compare father and son's writing. Well, there are similarities in the writing. I actually think Joe Hill is a darker, edgier writer than Stephen King. Certainly the rhythm and the style is different, but the detailed focus on characterization and character development are similar between both authors. In any event, This was a nice, creepy novel, and if you are a fan of horror, I really suggest you check out Joe King. Now, for those of you who have watched the TV series,
I dreamt there was a man. He was involved in something.
well, some of the characters and basic premises are similar, the stories are quite different, including the interpersonal dynamics among the characters, which I thought was some interesting choices for the TV series to make. Now, for starters, the TV series opens with Vic, or Victoria, as a teenager who rides a motorcycle. And the novel opens with Vic as a child who rides a bicycle. And I'll say no more about that. Vroom vroom! I give Nosferatu my blessing, as it has allowed me to easily defeat the challenge. Hear that, Queen Rachel? There's nothing stopping me now. So now we're in Empty Barrel Inn, and for an indulgent read, I wanted to read a middle grade book, and for my special bar challenge to read a book containing poetry, I got a middle grade book of poetry called Forget Me Not. Now note, I usually read ebooks, but I got this as a physical book because I do not trust ebooks when it comes to typesetting. Poetry often is very deliberate. I don't know if you can see that in how the words are printed on the page. You can see there's like indentations, and can you imagine E. Cummings on an ebook? Ugh. All these poems together are a collective story. It tells the story of Callie, Calliopeia, a 7th grade girl with Tourette's syndrome who starts at a new school in a new town because her flaky mother moves whenever she loses a boyfriend. Kelly at this new place ends up befriending her neighbor Jinsong. He's a boy who's both attracted to Kelly, yet cannot help feeling embarrassed by her, especially when the other kids in the school tease her. The poetry is from the point of view of Callie, and it is interspersed with prose from the point of view of Jinsong. Now, individually, the poems may not be spectacular, but together, the plight of living with Tourette's syndrome, which apparently Ellie Terry, the author, also suffers from, combined with Callie's OCD and navigating through 7th grade as a pariah, becomes heart-wrenching. Jinsong's struggle is also really poignant as he struggles with the guilt of being ashamed to be seen with his friend and succumbing to the pressures of his peers. It's really a brilliant work filled with a lot of heart, and I love this book of poetry, and it certainly gets my blessing. By the way, if you're in any type of reading challenge, books of poetry take no time to get through. This took me one afternoon to read. Even though it's over 300 pages, poetry is really quick reading, and you kind of have to almost force yourself to slow down because you do really want to absorb the different layers of meaning. But this inn was a pleasure to stay at with Forget Me Not by Ellie Terry. Now comes what I was dreading, the giant squid, the intimidating read. I wanted my Bard power to DNF a novel for this challenge because I picked a historical fiction book, and I am not into historical fiction. However, it was written by Gore Vidal, an author I have really enjoyed So now I am worried. Will this giant squid defeat me? Will I fail the Book Junkie Trials and let my fellow bards down? Hell no, what was I being so worried about? This is Gore Vidal. He is an amazing writer and an amazing historical researcher. The story is about Aaron Burr, one of America's founding fathers who shot Alexander Hamilton, who we all know now from the Broadway musical. And Aaron Burr died in disgrace. This was an amazing read. Now, keep in mind, I didn't have that much interest in the Revolutionary War and the period just after the war. I just picked up this novel because it was the first in Gore Vidal's series, historical fiction series about the American Empire. But this period really came alive, especially as history was turned completely upside down from what I remember from school. Since most of the history is from Burr's perspective, General Washington, George Washington, our first president, was painted as a puffed up, pompous, puritanical, incompetent. And Thomas Jefferson was a craven, hypocritical schemer. And we meet so many historical figures, from Andrew Jackson to Davy Crockett. We are treated to a series of historical facts, giving a whole new perspective to the Founding Fathers that's far afield from what you've read. If you think the United States of America was founded and started off as being led by icons of virtue, think again, at least through the lens of this novel. I give Burr my blessing, and I even bought tickets to Hamilton the musical because my interest in this period was suddenly un fuego.
First time I'm thinking past tomorrow. I am not throwing away my shot. I am not throwing away my shot. And you will just like my country. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I'm not throwing away my shot.
Finally, we arrive at the island of the Bookie Grail, but Burr took me a little longer to read than I thought.
And I had only 3 days to read Stardust
by Neil Gaiman. And you may have seen my little side quest to find my copy of Stardust, which I have found. Now, I believe I got my version of Stardust at an airport. But what I do know is that I got it just as the movie actually was released. How do I know that? It's because there is a special offer inside my version of Stardust, and my special offer is all I need to do is rip out this page and bring it in to the nearest Cinemark theater showing Stardust, and I get a free bag of popcorn. Has anyone done that? Has anyone actually ripped out a page out of their book for some silly coupon? But anyway, getting to Stardust. Now, it's been a while since I read this, and it's been a while since I've seen the movie, and I remember liking both the movie and the novel. So it was fun to read again, and to be completely frank, I enjoyed the novel, I believe, a lot more than I did the first time. The names of the main characters, Tristran and Yvain, are, I believe, a play on Tristan and Isolde, the story of the fated lovers that goes back 1,000 years. However, Gaiman, thankfully, didn't directly follow the traditional story of a love triangle, sort of the Guinevere, Arthur, Lancelot story. But there was definitely a strangely inverted archetypical lover story of the knight rescuing the maiden. And like all fairy tales, you have to look at it through the lens of metaphor. As I know some people complain about Tristran binding Yvain against her will with a magic silver chain. But the silver chain is a metaphor which comes up several times throughout the novel. And when Tristan becomes guilt-ridden, he finally frees Yvain, and only later can they really fall in love when they are not bound by any expectation or responsibility. And there you have it. My TBR for July, the Book Junkie Trials, was a success. Thank you, Queen Rachel, for this exciting adventure. I had so much fun. When there is a quest involved, I shall rise to the challenge, and with my fellow bards, we will dominate the next Book Junkie Trials. Please don't forget to subscribe and ring my bell, and may all the books you read be blessed.